He's 40 feet away near the timeline. Now Jimmer sizing up Moss. Oh, no. Oh, yes! Oh, yes!
Oh, no. Oh, yes. Jim Range is back. This is episode 29, I want to say.
I think that's
We're back to preview the Big Ten. I'm Carl Heiser, joined, as always, by my co-host, Alex Cervantes. Very excited to talk about some Big Ten basketball today. I'm a Maryland fan. Alex goes to Northwestern. Pretty self-explanatory why we're excited for this. We have a lot of thoughts. Alex, before we get started, how you doing today?
I'm all right. You know, I attended a Chicagoland Media tip-off luncheon today. Great experience. Got some awesome sound bites from Chris Collins, which is always appreciated. So, you know, it's been a solid day. Very tired. Woke up at 6:30 this morning, but you know, I have a large coffee from Starbucks, so we're caffeinated and ready to go.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my tweet about how I was stimulating myself instead of a morning coffee. I was just watching with Victor Wembanyama highlights. Yeah,
you should, as everyone should, actually.
Right. Yeah, that got me up and at 'em this morning. But tell the good people how you described the Big Ten.
Oh, if we're going off rip, let's get into it. So I'm just gonna. So there's 3 teams in the basement, right?
Yeah.
Right here.
Yep.
Then there's this big chunk of teams that I'm just calling a whole lot of mid, which is 4 through 11.
Yep.
Some have higher ceilings, some don't, but a whole lot of mid.
Yep.
And then the delineation you made, it's 2.5 teams in the top.
All right, we'll get into it. But the Big Ten, off of last season, they're losing a lot of individual talent. There's no more Jaden Ivey. There's no more Travion Williams. There's no more Johnny Davis. There's no more Keegan Murray. There's no more Kofi Coburn.
There's no more Pete Nance.
No more Pete Nance off to the ACC. Who else? There's definitely somebody like major that I'm forgetting. There's no Max Christie. It's like that guy sucks.
I knew you were gonna diss Max Christie at least once in this episode.
I have to, dude. It's my brand at this point.
It's the agenda.
So we're going to move through the teams in the Big Ten, sort of in the general consensus range that they're viewed. So
my rankings. I'm happy to.
Oh, we're going to give our rankings at the end. And I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of variation because, as you said, a whole lot of mid in the Big Ten.
Yeah. All right.
First off, we're going to start with a lot of people's preseason favorite to win the conference. We're just going to get it right out of the way because we got takes. We got takes on the Indiana Hoosiers. I am not high on Indiana. I know that you're probably higher on them than me.
I am.
But I think the idea of Indiana is a lot more fun than Indiana in reality. Okay. And I feel like it's kind of been that way for the last 5 years. I wasn't high on the Mike Woodson hire from the jump, and I'm still not because they were a team that was basically full steam ahead for the NIT last year before they win a couple games and then they get in as a 12 seed before getting run out of the gym by St. Mary's. They just weren't like that good of a team last year. They're returning a lot. That's great.
Game.
On paper, they're fun. Yeah, they beat Wyoming, and Wyoming is a good team.
I like Wyoming was good.
Yeah, Wyoming almost made my top 30. Okay.
Okay.
They almost snuck into that 30 spot. I'm not going to lie. But tell me why this year will be different with Indiana. Why they're better than the 12 seed that they were last year.
Okay. It is. I'm trying to follow the same logic that I'm following with other teams. I think it is similar in comparison. Indiana got hot those last 10 or so games in the regular season. They had to get hot to make the tournament.
Right. They needed to.
I can describe it. I feel like I can describe it as such.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So they got relatively hot. Xavier Johnson's play at point guard picked up. There was offseason drama there. They said they've handled it in-house, but Trace Jackson Davis and Mike Woodson have put the matter to bed. And then you add a pair of top 30 freshmen. And so I'm buying into the fact that you return Trace Jackson Davis, Race Thompson, your starting point guard, who has been sporadic, but is pretty consistently in his collegiate career since he was a freshman, hovered around 12 points a game and 4 assists. And if you have good to maybe great guard play, I think, especially in a really weak Big Ten, which it kind of is, you should be able to win this league. And so I really like Jalen Hood-Schifino, and so I think that's pushing the agenda a little bit. Love a good big guard that the mechanics really seem there that he can shoot the rock. If he can space the floor, I mean, that was their biggest concern. And all reports out of there seem to be that he can shoot. Tamar Bates has been able to correct his jump shot. If Miller Kopp can get back to what he was shooting at Northwestern, like hovering around 38%, I don't know why this team can't win the Big Ten with like a 14-6, 15-5 record, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where I'm at. And I'm trying to follow the same logic that like if we're in the talent, there's a major talent discrepancy. But like if we're following the logic that like UNC got hot and they added X guy and they're they're the consensus number 1 in the country, then like why can't Indiana, who bolstered their roster with two top 30 freshmen, plus one of the best bigs in the country, plus hopefully more consistent guard play? A lot of this is, it's preseason basketball. It's all hypotheticals, but like, why can't Indiana be a top 20 team, you know?
Well, I would say that the degrees to which they got hot were much different.
No. UNC went 17-4 in those like last 21 games.
Yeah.
So it is different. And UNC made the national title game. They did not bow out in the round of 64. I recognize all of that.
Yeah.
There's still a level of irrationality to what I'm saying. But I do believe in the Hoosiers.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yes.
I will say I like them on paper. Like I like how everything fits together. It looks really nice. The front court is solid. They've been there for years. It's Race Thompson. It's Trace Jackson Davis. Wow. You know exactly what you're getting from them, which isn't really stretching the floor, but you're at least getting, some pretty solid production down low.
But could stretch the floor. But can't with this roster. Could.
But have never. You have Miller Kopp, who, like, to your point that he didn't shoot 38% from three. He still shot 36%, but it was on really low usage. Like, he was only averaging 6 points a game. So, honestly, just give him the ball more. If you're really concerned about stretching the floor, I would say just feed him. Xavier Johnson's game picked up. Jalen Hood-Schifino, really good pickup, but we'll see what he is from like a perimeter scoring standpoint.
He's a bucket. Book it.
He's a bucket.
October 6th, 2022. Right. Alex, very high on Jalen Hood-Schifino.
Yeah, we'll clip that.
Surely can't go wrong.
Right.
For posterity. Surely it's.
Here's something I wanted to check. I went to Bart Torvik, and I wanted to check like from February onward, like looking at the teams that we think of as getting hot, and like where they finished over that last month of the season in Bart Torvik. So this is just like one analytics site. I'm sure other ones might say something that's a little bit different. But overall, North Carolina, they were number 11 in the T rank, finished 14-4 from February onward. Then you have TCU. A lot of people like them entering this year with their continuity. They were 23. Even though they were 6-9 over that last couple months of the season, they picked up wins over Texas Tech, Kansas, Texas. And they played in a really tough conference. So it's pretty easy to see like where that ranking comes from. Where do you think Indiana is from February onward?
Oh, I was honestly trying to pull it up, but I have not looked, so I can stop. Like where they are, like
just give me like a range that you think they were
in. You're posing this hypothetical, so like anywhere like within like the top 100 per se, or
they're in the top 100, yeah.
Okay, like a range within the top 100. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're posing this, so I'm gonna say 45 to 65.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty big range, but they were 60th. They were 60th from February onward. Okay. They were 5-9, and were 106. They were 110th in the adjusted offensive efficiency metric that I'm seeing here.
Let me be delusional.
So it's not like a really hot streak. They like won the games that they needed to avoid being relegated to the NIT, but it's not like they were going scorched earth over that last couple months of the season.
Hey, some of those players were suspended for some of those games.
That's fair.
Or was that controversy? I'm going to do March just because I want to play devil's advocate, and I'd like to at least
So just conference tournaments.
just March play. They let's do Control F here.
Anything to fit the narrative, right?
Nope, not really that much better. 57.
Yeah, okay.
Yikes. Okay.
Yeah.
The narrative remains. I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep pushing it. It's not like it's also like I talk to people that are like they're a potential top 10 team. I pump the brakes on that.
Yeah.
I comfortably have them top 20 and winning the Big Ten. Okay, they're not gonna comfortably win the Big Ten, but I like that like as the barometer for them, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
For me with Indiana, long story short, it's just I'll believe it when I see it. And I haven't seen it the last couple of years. I saw Eric Haslam. He put out a graph of his own, which was the most consistent teams over the last like 5 years in his, analytics. And I remember Indiana was on there as being one of the most consistent, and they just like kind of have been the same thing for the last 4 or 5 years.
But isn't that consistency at its finest?
Well, if your consistency is finishing
Being the same.
Right, but do we want them to be the same?
No, obviously that is not good for Indiana fans.
Yeah. If you didn't get better, you got worse. So, although the rest of the Big Ten got worse, so maybe if you don't get better, you got better. Actually,
great take. Clip that. Clip that.
If you don't get better, you actually got better
in a bad Big Ten. Yes.
Right? Yeah, in a bag. Yeah, that's going to be a quote card. I'm going to make a quote card.
It should be. It absolutely should be.
All right, let's move on from Indiana. I think there's reason to be not confident in Indiana.
Hey,
as much
I respect it.
As much as like the narratives will abound because like every single preseason ranking is like they're going to win the Big Ten. Trace Jackson Davis, Player of the Year in the conference. They're a top 15, they're a top 15 team, which he's not, and we'll get to that. Actually, yeah, that's a good segue. Let's talk about Michigan.
Okay.
Michigan to me is like kind of the opposite of Indiana, where I don't totally love them on paper, but I've seen them do this before. And I think Hunter Dickinson is the best player in the conference, and I think he's going to carry them. Maybe not in like the same fashion, but I think to the same degree that like Johnny Davis carried Wisconsin last year. That Wisconsin team was they were not supposed to be good. If Johnny Davis didn't absolutely pop off,
they were pegged 10th.
Basically hard carry them through the season. They weren't going to be anything. So I think it's going to be a little bit of the same here with Hunter Dickinson. I don't know if you have similar thoughts on that or not.
No, I mean, it is like I made when I like put Michigan where I did in my rankings, I put them like it does follow Dickinson. I don't know. He's a top 3 big man in the country. I mean, you throw him in top 4. You throw him in the same conversation with Timmy Baycott and Sheboy, like maybe not in the same conversation, but like if we're doing a tier 1, he could be the top of tier 2. But yeah, like I like Michigan because I want to see Joey Baker has just kind of been handicapped on the Duke bench. And obviously he's a former top 40 recruit. So I would like to see, just as a Duke fan, like I would like to see him flourish somewhere else. And then I'm intrigued to see like Jalen, I think it's Llewellyn. I'm not, okay. I just wanted to make sure I pronounce that right. But like you spurn Clemson kind of last minute and you end up in Ann Arbor. So, and like Michigan is kind of their identity these last couple of years have been kind of adding those low or mid-major point guards to kind of lead their team. So we'll see what they can do. There's question marks with Indiana. I think there's more question marks with Michigan, but
I would agree, but weirdly I still think they'll be better. Okay,
but like you get like in the same way what you're getting from TJD, you know what you're getting from Dickinson. So I get that. And if you rate Dickinson more than you rate Trace Jackson Davis, I can understand you ranking them ahead. Yeah. So, like, I don't know. I think we fall kind of into the same areas. Ton of depth, obviously. Like, you don't think there's a ton of depth? I mean, there's depth. Like, there's depth. Like, it may not be great depth, but they can play people.
Sure, yeah.
They can have a 10-man rotation. They could have a 10-man rotation,
I mean, no, they can. It's just it's a lot of like unknown quantities as
And
far
let
as
Jett Howard
goes.
cook. That's my takeaway.
Let Jett Howard cook. I mean, listen, he played for a really good. That IMG Academy team had some nice players on it, dude.
They did.
Some nice players.
Still weren't the best team in the state of Florida.
I mean, yeah. Bottom line, like you're Michigan. You lose Eli Brooks. You lose Devontae Jones. You lose Caleb Houston. Those were all double-digit scorers from last season.
Who you
bring in Jalen Llewellyn, who he played in the Ivy League, but all the reports are that he's definitely going to be fine playing in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not super worried about that. And then you bring in some guys who, like you said, like Joey Baker, didn't really get to show what he could do at Duke. And so, I mean, we'll see here with Michigan.
Hoping for a Buffkin leap sophomore year too, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's entirely possible. I'm absolutely open to that because I need it to back up my take. But Hunter Dickinson, I think, could have enough gravity to where it opens up things for other guys to show what they can do. And I think that'll help some guys who might need to take a step this year. I mean, overall, I'm very high on Hunter Dickinson. I said on the Kentucky Cavalry podcast that I think he's not getting enough hype for a potential National Player of the Year campaign.
Okay.
And listen, like I have every reason to not like Hunter Dickinson.
You do.
He has a well-established beef with the Maryland Terrapins for like basically no reason. But I do think he's good. I think he's the best player in the conference. So I'm going to give him his flowers because of that.
I like it.
Yeah.
Listen, we have takes. It's early in the episode.
Here's my last thing I'll say on Michigan. I think it's entirely they snuck into the tournament last year. You could make the argument that they shouldn't have even been a tournament team, but then they end up making the Sweet 16. So it's kind of like, well, okay. I think they could be better as far as a regular season team goes this year.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make as like deep of a run in March.
Yeah, but
I think it could be flip-flopped this year.
March is such a I mean, it's why we love the chaos of it, but like it's so hard. Like that's
very
hard.
Right. It is very fickle. So
Also, I always like pulling up their schedules. You know, like while we're talking about these teams, like Purdue, Fort Wayne, W, Eastern Michigan, W, Pitt, W.
Eastern Michigan.
Simone Bates gonna play.
I mean, who cares? We'll just have Noah Farrakhan 40 piece.
Pittsburgh dub. The winner of Arizona State VCU. VCU could give them trouble. VCU
a little bit, but
could give them a little trouble.
A little bit.
Ohio dub. Jackson State dub. Okay, they play Virginia, Kentucky, and North Carolina. Great games. Test your teams.
Are those all consecutive?
No.
Oh, wow.
No.
Okay.
They do play Virginia, Kentucky back to back.
Okay.
They go to London for the Kentucky game, and then
I mean, yeah, those will be their first real tests, honestly.
Like, I don't know, you open your 6-game opening to like your 3-game opening to Big Ten plays Minnesota, Maryland, and Penn State. Like that is, in theory, if you're one of the best teams in the Big Ten, you should handle all those. But
yeah,
all this to be said, they'll have a few good tests that like we can have a good barometer going into January where they're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're a wait and see, but you gotta take your shots somewhere.
You're buying stock early?
This is where I'm just gonna buy stock early at this point. All right. Next up, Illinois.
Love them.
You love them?
Yeah, I love them.
Tell me why you love them. Because I also love them.
Okay, well, listen, it's because like shout out Sleepers and they talked about it, but like it's the wing depth. I mean, you look at their wing depth. I mean, it's just exciting. Like you got Terrence Shannon Jr., who was just pegged as a preseason All Big Ten member.
Yep.
You got Meyer from Baylor. I don't know, where do we set the expectation of what he's going to give? But if he can get 11 to 13 as like the second or third focal point on this team, it's good.
I think that's a fair expectation for him because the expectations for him last year were just
way too high.
Way too high.
I probably did have too high expectations, but last season allows me to now temper them. You have Melendez, who a lot of people are pegging as a breakout guy. You got Goody, right? And then Underwood is raved about Ty Rodgers and his kind of versatility with them. So, I mean, I think that's exciting. You can have concerns about their backcourt depth, I was a big fan of Sky Clark in high school. I hope he can come off that injury well.
Mm-hmm.
He's a quality point guard. Like, I don't know. We question all these freshman PGs, and there's reason to because of history, but there's also there have been good freshman PGs. So
right, it's not like we've never seen a good. freshman
it's not like we haven't
before.
seen a good freshman point guard. You know?
Yeah, it is tough. It's absolutely tough to come in your first season and lead the offense, but
they exist, and he's got a lot of help around him. It's not like he has to lead this offense and average 17 and 6.
Yeah, this Illinois team has a lot of versatility.
And also,
a lot of versatility.
Is Coleman Hawkins considered a wing? I don't like him starting at the 5.
I think he's probably going to, but here's my thing with that. So you lose Kofi Coburn at the 5, who was like far and away your best player, has been for a couple of years, right?
You can change your sets. You can change everything.
Yes. Kofi Coburn was a phenomenal basketball player, do not get me wrong, but you were very limited as far as what you were able to do with him on both offense and defense. You could not switch him out to the perimeter. He was not somebody who could switch out there and guard quicker players. And then on offense, like you're just like feeding the post over and over. Like it gets stale like after a while. But with Coleman Hawkins, he's no Kofi Coburn, but he's switchable.
And he's not a typical big, but he can stretch the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I'm a little worried about is they lose a lot of 3-point shooting with Alfonso Plummer out the door, Trent Frazier out the door, Jacob Grandison out the door. So
shout out.
Like I think Terrence Shannon and Matthew Meyer and even RJ Melendez will hit enough shots to where and Sky Clark is a good shooter in his own right. Yeah. I think they'll be able to replace that like adequately. I think they'll be okay.
I like them. I think I was a tad bit influenced by like other expectations around Indiana, and I've really bought into as I've said, the Xavier Johnson and stuff. But if we had this conversation a month ago, I probably would have ranked Illinois ahead of Indiana. Like I really have liked them for that long. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see how Underwood makes this team work. And like the defensive, like it's just a bunch of dogs. Like they're gonna make it tough.
They're gonna be good defensively.
Yeah.
Would you agree with me? Here's my thing with Illinois. Here's my take. I think they have the highest ceiling of any team in the Big Ten.
Okay.
Do you think that's? I mean, you're hesitating, so maybe you don't think.
No, I'm not hesitating. Like I'm trying to think through.
I mean, there's only so many teams that
there's always like the possibility Northwestern goes 20. I can buy into that. I don't think they have as good like a centerpiece as like Indiana or Michigan does, but you got a lot of guys who can hoop. That's gotta help. Like if you want to talk about real depth, they have it. They can go. I mean, their 9-man rotation is up there, you know. So it's either
okay. I'll convince you. I'll convince you eventually. Okay.
No, yeah, it won't be hard. I could see like 2 games and be like, yes, I'm bought in.
We'll get to the rankings, but I did pick Illinois to win the conference.
I respect it.
Okay.
I'm
buying into the ceiling.
In fairness, I saw our top 25 rankings before this, and so when you put one team ahead of another team, I could gather.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Yeah. But we'll get to it. All right, next up. Ohio State. Okay. In our listing of all the players that have departed the Big Ten, we forgot to mention EJ Liddell and Malachi Branham. 2 guys off to the NBA who no longer with Ohio State.
Yep.
Ohio State they're an interesting case to me. They like narrowly squeaked into the top 30. They were a pretty uninspiring number 30 for me. But kind of the more I look at what they have, I do like it. Like I like Isaac Likely from Oklahoma State. We were both pretty high on Oklahoma State last season before we found out they had nothing to play for. We were pretty high on Oklahoma State.
We were.
Yeah, but you bring in Isaac Likely, you bring in Sean McNeil from West Virginia, Tanner Holden from Wright State. Shout out Horizon League. We love you. I like the pieces. I don't think that the star power is absolutely not there, but the collective to me is good enough to finish top 5 in the conference.
Okay. So you think are they a poor man's Illinois?
What do you mean
In a
by
way.
poor man's Illinois?
Well, I don't know. We talk about like they don't have a single star, but like you got a lot of pieces that theoretically have played together and on paper combined as a puzzle. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean Illinois kind of
kind
has a lot of Illinois doesn't have many like alphas, but they do have some like kind of second tier. Like Terrence Shannon is really, really good.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
I don't know. Ironically enough, when I was like making my list, I was like, I trust Kai Clark as a freshman PG. I trust Hochefino if he's like a secondary ball handler. I don't trust Bruce Thornton. I was like, and then I thought about it later. I was like, that logic doesn't really track. But I don't know. Like, I'm concerned. Like, are they running? Who are they running their offense through? Like, is it through Key? Is it through Zed Key? Is it through McNeil? Like, how?
It might be through Justice Sewing.
And Justice Sewing's returning from injury.
Yeah.
Like, we don't
So
know
that's
what
like-
he looks like. That's my like. They have huge question marks.
Yeah.
You know, like that's why I struggle ranking them.
Yeah.
'Cause, you know,
But
like,
that's
you
the
don't
thing.
have
Is like
stars.
all of these teams have huge question marks.
They do, but like when you don't have a star, you don't really know who you're running through your offense to. And for the guy that everyone thinks you're going to run your offense to is returning from injury, those seem like three major concerns. So I think you're higher on the Buckeyes than I am,
Yeah.
but I think
Relatively speaking, I'm not high on like any of these teams.
okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
But like they do have guys that can put it in the hoop. So it's I mean like a lot of things, it comes down to point guard play.
I mean,
but
these all these teams are going to have questions. It's just a matter of whose questions you feel most comfortable like explaining away.
absolutely.
So Ohio State is one that I feel a little more comfortable explaining away. Chris Holtman was given preseason coach of the year in the Almanac. Shout out to those guys. So if you buy into the coaching bump, which I also do.
I do too. I like Holtman. It's hard not to, you know, but
Yeah. He's a good coach.
absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see, as we will with many of these teams, how those questions will be answered. Because
They
I
are
am curious.
mid,
I am
but
curious
upper tier.
where the offense is coming from. Because
Yeah. Who knows? But they're mid, but upper tier mid.
let's talk
Oh.
about Iowa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wait, yes. Oh yes. I need to know. I just want you to unload all of your frustrations, all of your worries that you have about Kris Murray. I need to hear them.
Okay. Here are my thoughts as concise as I can make them on Kris Murray. Keegan Murray was really good last season.
Obviously,
And
yes.
most of the Kris Murray breakout predictions I'm seeing aren't able to predict a Kris Murray breakout without mentioning Keegan Murray. And I think that places ridiculous expectations on Kris Murray. I do think he'll be better. And a lot of people are saying he has like legit tools. But if we're going to predict a breakout for Kris Murray, I want it to be on the basis of his own merits, not on the basis of his brother who averaged 25 points a game last year, because that's just not going to happen.
23 and a half.
Okay, still. I mean, was like a player of the year candidate for the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
He was top 10 in the country in scoring. Are we really saying like we're basing our Kris Murray breakout expectations off of a top 10 player in the country last year? I don't think that's a good idea. I think he'll average like 14, 15 a game, which is good.
It doesn't. It gets you, if you're on an Iowa team that finished the top 6, he's a probably first team All Big Ten selection.
I think that's fair. I'm just frustrated with like kind of the lack of creativity.
Okay.
Because it's like, oh, his brother was good. Well, he's going to be good too. It's like it doesn't really work like that. I mean, Fred McCaffrey said as much. His Almanac quote. Did you see it?
I did.
Yeah. He said, "I'll talk about Keegan all day." This is a quote. "I'll talk about Keegan all day, but not when I'm talking about Kris. I know it's natural to compare those two. It's the natural question, but I want to talk about Kris and the progression he has made and he will make this year. He's ready to have a terrific season." That is how you get me to buy in on a Kris Murray breakout. Is intentionally saying it has nothing to do with Keegan. Because I think that's how you have to do it. That's the best way to do it. So
It's fair.
I was almost anti Kris Murray.
You were for a bit there.
For a
You
few
really
weeks. And
were.
it was starting to sound a little toxic, but at this point, reading that from Fred McCaffrey, I am I'm okay with saying that he's a breakout candidate because I think I've actually seen healthy expectations for him. So I'm okay with that. As far as the rest of Illinois goes, they lose a prolific three-point shooter in Jordan Bohannon. They lose Keegan Murray, as previously mentioned.
Yep.
But they bring back Kris. They have they bring back Tony Perkins. They have Patrick McCaffrey back. There are some things to like, and as long as Trey McCaffrey's been there, has been a really, really good offensive team. And I think we can expect more of the same this year. I think they'll be a really solid offensive team.
Yeah, I got him. I'll buy into. I know Perkins has kind of been tabbed as a guy that like could kind of break out in a certain degree. You know, I like him as like I don't know. I really liked Aaron Eulis in high school, but he obviously hasn't really gotten the reps at Iowa. But he's a junior or senior now, right? Junior, I think.
He's a junior.
Okay, so yeah, if your backcourt and it's pegged like I think it's slotted as that in the almanac. If your backcourt's Eulis and Perkins, I think it's a solid backcourt. And like to a certain degree, they've only averaged like 11 points a game last season combined, but you at least have seen what they could give you, and you figure with more reps and more minutes, like if Eulis gets 25 minutes, he can probably put 7 and 4 up pretty consistently against Big Ten opponents. Yeah. Perkins becomes a double-digit scorer. If Murray's your leading scorer at 15, Patrick McCaffrey can pour in another 13. Like you're really looking at a solid team. They're going to win games. They're one of these teams that I feel like has a high floor, low ceiling kind of thing. Like like I feel like you do. We said it a lot in this episode, but like you really do know what you're kind of getting with Iowa. Spare, like sans the impending Murray breakout if it happens. I mean, if it doesn't happen, they're in trouble. Yeah. So
I mean, Murray and Bohannon leave a pretty large vacuum as far as production is concerned, and they leave all these depth pieces behind to try to figure out how to fill that. Yeah. And the offensive system is definitely conducive to doing that. But if you just look at it on paper, Patrick McCaffrey is the only player they bring back who averaged 10 points a game last year. So you're really counting on a lot of people to figure out a lot of things very quickly.
It's a good assessment.
I mean, the depth is there, but that's like they need a breakout. They need a breakout to like be able to hit that ceiling, which we don't even know that their ceiling is that high as it is. All right, good stuff. Let's talk about Purdue. It feels like every team we've talked about so far has lost like a good amount of star power, except for maybe Indiana and Michigan. Michigan to an extent. Yeah. It's really just Indiana that hasn't really lost very much. Yeah. But Purdue, they lose Jaden Ivey. They lose Travion Williams. But they bring back Zach Edey.
They do.
And that's got to count for something. They also bring in, his name is escaping me, the transfer from Utah.
David Jenkins?
Yes, David Jenkins. Previously of UNLV, previously of South Dakota State, I want to say. So he's gotten around, but the guy can play. Yep. Yeah, he had a bit of a down year last year, but I think he'll be good for them.
We're buying into a lot of breakouts. It's okay.
We have to.
It does. Like you really, when you lose this much star power, every team in the conference is not going to average 64 points a game. So
it feels like all these teams are like 8th place teams, but somebody has to finish 4th, 5th, 6th, etc.
A whole lot of mid.
So much mid.
My concern.
Also, Sasha Stefanovic is gone. I forgot to mention him too.
Yeah, he's gone.
Gone.
Bye-bye shooters. My concern, I think it's said in the almanac, Painter thinks Edey can get like 20 and 12 on 30 minutes a game.
That's a really lofty.
Can he go 30 minutes a game?
I know. He was 19 minutes a game last year.
I know. That's like, and he absurd statistically, but I just, okay, I'm
super good, super efficient when he's out there.
And like, listen, it's Purdue, so they're going to roll out some Scandinavian 7'2" center that no one knows about, and he's going to come in, and he's also going to like replace Edey. So they're going to have a bunch of giants in the front court. But on the plus side, you do again. This is one of those teams that like it's another freshman point guard. You know?
Yeah.
Like
who are not as high on as we are Sky Clark.
Correct. Correct, which is why we're tempering expectations. But
Right.
like
Plus, Sky Clark I think he's listed at 6'3", and Braden Smith is 6'0".
Yeah. So and he might not even be like 6 foot. Like that's a basketball listing.
Yeah.
In shoes. So, I don't know. Brandon Newman, you might want to buy maybe like a sprinkle of stock in him. Caleb First, I don't know whether he comes off the bench or starts. You know, it's tough because like, are you going to start Mason Gillis at the 3? Like, does that really work?
I mean, yeah. That I don't know that would.
Yeah. So is it again similarly to the team we just talked about? On the bright side, you have a star. You have a guy you know you can run your offense through. You can go to. We don't know if he can push 30 minutes, whether it be foul trouble or conditioning. But you have a bunch of depth pieces that are now going to – two of them at least have to average double digits for you to be successful. So we'll see. I mean, Ethan Morton shot 44% from 3. Like that could hold over, you know, on more attempts. Maybe not 44%, but
– I'd have to check as far as what – kind of volume we're working with here, but the percentages look good.
also it's impossible to scout Zach Edey. Like you can't, there's nothing you can do truly like in a practice to prepare for a 7'4", 270-pound center that like you can't really front because he'll just catch it over the top of you and then dunk it.
Yeah. Like
it truly is a conditioning thing because otherwise, I mean, if he's on the floor, he could absolutely average 22 and 12. So we'll see.
I had a friend, I think I mentioned this last year when we talked about Purdue and Zach Edey, but I have a friend who he's like a friend of Zach Edey and like played him in a pickup game one time. I cannot imagine playing Zach Edey in a pickup game.
Nightmarish.
As far as the question I had on volume, Mason Gillis, 2.6 3-point attempts per game, which is like respectable. But First and Morton were taking like less than 1 a game. They were hitting them, but they weren't really attempting very many. So we'll see what they can do with probably a lot more volume with the 3 of your 4 best players gone. So, but I think we give Matt Painter a lot of credit.
There's reason for optimism for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good coaches in the Big Ten. They just may not have their rosters this year.
My projection for Purdue, I saw they're releasing new jerseys pretty soon. If the new jerseys look good, I'll be higher on them. If they're bad, then I'm going to be lower on them. So
it's an admirable cause for sure.
Full disclosure, look good, play good, and I need something to differentiate these teams. So
100%, you know.
Yeah. All right, Michigan State.
Yeah.
This team to me is it's just a retread of last season's team. My whole issue with the team last season was that they didn't have any star, any like even potential star on that team. And now they're just kind of running it back with the same structure. Like this doesn't feel all that different to me from last year.
I don't think that assessment's wrong.
They don't have a single player who even averaged 9 points a game last year.
That assessment is not wrong. But again, we have to buy into breakouts. So who better than the precocious AJ Hoggard?
Here it comes.
No, like legitimately, like why not?
No, yeah. What has you buying into the AJ Hoggard breakout? I'm not totally sold, but Ryan Hammer.
Honestly, it's Ryan Hammer. Like full disclosure, it is Ryan. I don't know. There's been enough threads on Twitter to where I have got this call. I like the cause that Hoggard can be 12 or more points a game and 5 assists, hopefully limiting turnovers kind of guy, you know? So, and listen, he averaged 20 minutes a game last year. That entire Michigan State team, like it was like 10 guys and they all rotated in and out and they were playing anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes a night. If Izzo can commit, you know, and part of it is going to be like these guys have to separate themselves from the rest of the team, right? Naturally. But why not, you know?
Why not?
Why not? You know, like why can't it be AJ Hoggard?
Sure.
I think it would be great. I think it would be a lot of fun.
As far as their committee approach went, it was
fine.
You could argue it was successful enough. Like they made the tournament. Like they won a tournament game.
They pushed Duke.
They beat Daily Picks darlings Davidson.
Gosh, so frustrated watching that game.
I was too, because that was a pick that when I was making my bracket I made it with my heart and not my gut, because like that's the type of game that you know deep down that Michigan State is going to win, but everything within me wanted Davidson, and so I picked them to win.
Relatable. And then I also just was like, because my heart is saying this, Davidson will surely win. So
yeah,
I turned off all logic.
Listen to your heart.
There seems to be a lot of optimism surrounding Jackson Kohler too. Mm-hmm. So again, it's one of those teams where if you have one guy who can get to the 14 points a game mark, and then then like 5 guys that can average, they can give you anywhere from 7 to 13 on any night. Like you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, with Jackson Kohler, anytime you have a 6'9" forward who can stretch the floor, that is an archetype I'm willing to be optimistic about.
Yeah,
that's the type of guy that I like. So
yeah, I respect it.
And then it is just a question of Hoggard and like if Walker can be a scorer in his senior year.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Malik, similarly to Purdue, you have guys who shot 38% and more. Again, it's volume, so it's all relative. But like Aiken shot 38%, Malik Hall was over 40%. So was Joey Heiser. Tyson Walker shot a ridiculous 47% or something, 46% maybe. But yeah, it's if you buy into Hoggard, which I'm doing, I have this team a little higher. Plus Izzo, top 5 coach in the sport, top 10 coach in the sport. So you got to believe,
Yeah, am I about to buy into Michigan State?
Yes, you are.
What I'm about to do?
Yes, you are. See, look at this episode,
man.
Carl's getting me to commit to Illinois on episode.
I already know my ranking is going to change. Like
by the end of the episode?
By the end of the episode, maybe. I'm going to roll with what I had at the beginning. Okay. I think 30 minutes after we're done recording, things are going to be different.
That's okay. That's okay. We can release a graphic, updated rankings, post podcast. Right.
Well, maybe at some point they'll make the my transitive national champions graphic. I sent you that, right?
You did. And we talked about it because it stopped after X amount of teams.
Yes. It just loops back on itself.
No, but even after I did parameters so that it didn't, it had to stop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you went back 5 years, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It legitimately stopped. Yeah.
That's the kind of research that we like around here.
I spent 2 hours on it. It was bad.
Yeah, you're doing the Lord's work out there.
Went down the rabbit hole.
The transitive national champions, that's a topic for a few weeks from now. But that will be an ongoing thing throughout the season.
Will, for sure.
Yep. Okay, next up, Rutgers.
Yes. Another team.
Lose Ron Harper Jr. Ron Harper Jr. We forgot to mention him.
Just a mass exodus of stars.
I mean, really,
truly.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to know why I like Rutgers this year? I saw Rutgers go down 24 points to lowly Northwestern last year, and then almost complete a 24-point second half comeback in 14 minutes, and then almost beat Northwestern in overtime. With Paul Mulcahy going for 31-7-7 and Cliff Amoria scoring 22. Those 2 guys are returning. I have watched one game of them in person. I'm buying in.
Yeah. I mean, they'll do that every game, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure Paul Mulcahy will win National Player of the Year, averaging 31-7-7 nightly.
Yeah, those 2 are going to combine for 50 points a night. And
you heard it here first. Paul and you heard it here first. Jim Range is national champions, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
The Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Yep. If they play every tournament game at the rack, I think there's a chance.
Maybe they should. Plus Caleb McConnell, he's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year again. So,
I mean, yeah, some of that with Defensive Player of the Year voting is definitely reputation based, but he's a great defender. He's a very, very good defender. So I definitely want to give him credit because I think sometimes we just kind of whether it's NBA or college, we kind of default to certain guys as the best defensive players.
That's fair.
He is a very, very good defender and is deserving of any recognition for that. Yeah.
And this was another quote. This was another great quote from the Almanac. But when Steve Pickle said, "I didn't lose anyone in the portal. I had opportunities to get another 4-man, but I like my young guys and was afraid we could lose one or two of them if we did that. Now it's time to see what those guys can do." I mean, that's just great buy-in to your program, especially in an era of college basketball where the roster turnover is so excessive. So, I mean, if that we knew the culture was good, but seeing that in print says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying Rutgers is going to finish top 4 in the conference, but I do buy this team just because of their personnel being a little higher. And if if McConnell can average more than 7, that's just even better. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bonus.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you think we can expect from Cam Spencer, if anything? He's coming from Loyola. He averaged 19 a game.
He did.
Loyola, Maryland, mind you, not Loyola, Chicago. But anyway.
He's not going to average 19. Maybe I eat my words and he does, which would be insane.
That'd be awesome.
But I know it really would be, wouldn't it? Big Ten Farmers League. There's the quote. But
the Bundesliga of college basketball.
Yeah, Big Ten, the Bundesliga of college basketball. No, but one of those guys again, that's a full stat line if you look at it from last year. But I mean, almost 2.5 steals a game. Mm-hmm. That's what sticks off the page for me. If you're telling me McConnell and Spencer can guard your 2 best players, and a guard and it's a big heavy league, but Amore can hold his own defensively against your Dickinsons, your Trace Jackson Davises. Mm-hmm. You know. Yeah.
Plus, they're gonna win. They're gonna win a lot of games at home.
Yeah.
So I mean, factoring that in, there's a world in which Rutgers is 5th or 6th in the conference.
There is. They need to not end up on the bubble again for so long, but
sure. But I mean, still, they were a tournament team.
That could be said about a lot of teams, frankly.
Yeah.
And they gave us a great playing game.
All right. Next up, Penn State.
It's Jalen Pickett and company. I don't know what else to say.
That was going to be my first comment. It's Jalen Pickett and a bunch of dudes.
Hey, and this is what scares me about Penn State. Michael Shrewsbury said, if we don't get it, we're not going to get a ton of rebounds. And in a league like the Big Ten, where it's a big, heavy league, and if you don't know if you're going to get
Big Ten in this conference, you're telling me you're not going to get rebounds?
Oh, geez. I do not like a rebound by committee approach. That terrifies me.
It's just not a good idea.
No. And especially you're starting a 6'10" freshman big man.
That's their tallest player.
Yeah. That's terrifying.
And probably the tallest player by a few inches in their entire rotation. So
I'm indeed scared. And you're combining a bunch of freshmen and transfers to Jalen Pickett. Jalen Pickett can hoop.
Pickett's going to put up numbies, though.
He is. Yeah. And he's going to make an all Big Ten team because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these – listen, the Almanac pegged them as a sleeper team. So, for what it's worth, other people are buying in. Nah. Carlson,
nah. I mean, they have 5 or 6 guys, I think, who are in their 5th year of college basketball. So, it's cool to have all that experience, but it's not like they were good. It's not like you're bringing back a team that was good last year. You're just bringing back
7 and 13 and Jalen Pickett.
Yeah. Which, I mean, are you really getting better because you have that experience? I don't really know.
And Seth Lundy. I'm going to just quickly shout out Seth Lundy. He's a good number 2 option.
Right.
He's also 6'6". So, again, concerned about the rebound by committee. That's my biggest red flag.
Sure. And we'll see what Cameron Winter can do transferring up from Drexel. Yeah, again, Jalen Pickett's going to put up numbers. I'm just not this. Nothing about this team impresses me really.
He'll have a 30 ball and beat somebody unexpectedly.
Yeah, probably. I'm not discounting that. I think there's going to be probably 1 or 2 games where we're raising our eyebrows. Oh, Penn State. Hello, Penn State. But I think for the majority of the season, I don't think they're going to do anything.
Who's next? Oh, listen, the floor is yours.
Okay. I just did my season preview for Maryland.
Go check it out.
If you're interested, go check it out at Vendetta Sports Media. 1,600 words and not nearly as much optimism as I had last season. This year, I think I don't think Maryland will be great. I don't think they'll even necessarily be good. But I think they'll be more competitive than people are giving them credit for. This starting five to me is actually not that bad. Jameer Young is I think, best transfer in the conference. Very respectable lead guard. Someone who is going to score points. Donald Carey, who was on a really, 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 really bad Georgetown team last year. But, I mean, he still averaged 13 a game in a power conference. Like, he's going to produce in his graduate transfer year. But the player that I'm really excited to see what happens with them is Hakeem Hart. He's got a lot of tools. He's really long. He can shoot the ball. But for all of Mark Turgeon's tenure, he was underutilized and just didn't feel like he was used correctly. There'd always be a game where he'd hit he'd go to 6 for 8 from 3 and score, 27 points. And then the next game he'd get 2 shots. And I just never understood why that was the case. It was always really frustrating. But some of the preseason quotes from Kevin Willard have me really optimistic that the ways that they're going to use Hakeem Hart this year they're going to feature him more. Like, they're going to get him more involved in the offense, which I think will be to their benefit, because it's weird to say that a player could break out in their senior season, but I think Hakeem Hart could break out in his senior season. Plus, Dante Scott's your best returner. He's going to have, more than a few games this year where he goes for 15 and 10. I think he's going to be a double-double guy. And then Julian Reese showed some nice flashes last season. I was a little afraid that he would transfer. His sister played for the women's team, and she transferred out. I was kind of afraid that with the coaching change and his sister gone, that Julian Reese would also be out the door. But he's back, and as long as he can stay out of foul trouble and just pull in rebounds, I think he'll be solid. My biggest question, though, with Maryland is the depth, because I think the starting five is really solid. But after that, it's a lot of question marks. People thought Ian Martinez would be a solid contributor last season, and that never really panned out. The front court depth behind Julian Reese, you have Patrick Emilien from St. Francis, who averaged 12 a game, but it's St. Francis. And in his previous, he was at Western Michigan before that and just wasn't really that productive. You have Jahari Long in the backcourt, who followed Kevin Willard from Seton Hall. And he's coming off an injury. He was supposed to get a larger role in his sophomore year, and things were kind of trending upwards. And then he got hurt 5 games into the season. And so we never really saw what he was supposed to be. So that's a big question mark. And then the front court, there's just so many questions about who you're going to have in the front court. Your wing depth also is a former top 100 recruit in Ike Cornish, who didn't play last season. He redshirted. And Noah Batchelor, who's an incoming 3-star. So you don't really have anybody with experience backing up Hakeem Hart on the wing, which I definitely think is cause for concern.
Hey, but this podcast loves 30 minutes for Hakeem Hart, so.
We do. I do love Hakeem Hart. My projection for Maryland is that I think they'll be in the 8 to 10 range in the conference. I think they'll definitely hang with some teams. I like Kevin Willard as a coach who will keep them in games. And I think even once the Big Ten tournament rolls around, once you make the rotation shorter and you're getting a higher percentage of minutes from your starting five, which is, I think, objectively pretty good, they could be a sleeper to win a couple games. I don't think they have the juice to win the whole thing, but pull off some upsets, I absolutely think they could.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's year one of Willard, proof of concept.
Yeah.
Just show us something promising, because you have a really good 2023 class on the way.
Yep.
So
Very true.
All right, moving on. Wisconsin. I'll let you talk. I've talked enough. You can talk about Wisconsin.
Well, the preseason poll, the media members are quite high apparently on Wisconsin. Chucky. So no, because so for context, very fortunate. I got to vote in this poll on behalf of the paper I write for at Northwestern.
Big J journalist.
But when I was doing in past years, the team that wins the Big Ten will have at least 2 members on first or second team Big Ten. And Wisconsin, if we're following the same logic, which no one's going to peg Wisconsin to win the conference, but Wisconsin was the only Big Ten team to have 2 members on the preseason All Big Ten squad.
Right.
So Hepburn is clearly poised or pegged at least for a breakout, and then Tyler Wall, which I think is respectable. I had him on that list. He's he'll I mean, he's probably their go-to guy. So I don't know. Again, it's just mid, and we would have said this about Wisconsin. We probably did say this about Wisconsin this time last year. But I don't know. Maybe I don't even know. Jordan Davis, I guess, but he averaged a point. He's not going to do it.
Yeah, it's not even a Kris Murray thing where
it's not.
He still averaged 9 and
I don't even
showed some flashes.
Love Wofford. Max Klesmit averaged 15 there. Maybe he comes in and averages 10. Tyler Wall's your go-to guy. So we'll see.
Should have gone to Virginia Tech. Wofford's the feeder school for Virginia Tech.
So true. So true. They lack star power. And a lot of schools do, but they lack star power, and then they lack the second-tier guys that will help them win basketball games.
I'm just having flashbacks to last season because I thought Wisconsin was going to be pretty bad last season, and to me it was Brad Davison and a bunch of dudes, and it turned out it was Johnny Davis and a bunch of dudes, and Johnny Davis and a bunch of dudes actually ended up making some noise.
25-8
problems and winning the conference.
Yes.
Question mark.
Yeah.
Did that happen? That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm having flashbacks to that because I don't really see what I'm supposed to like about this Wisconsin team unless I was predicting a Chucky Hepburn breakout. But I don't even know that that's going to be enough to save them from bottom 5. I think they're a bottom 5 team in the conference.
Ooh.
I hate to say it, but
I don't know about that. I don't think they're much better than bottom 5. I don't know if I'd put them there yet. Could fall there, absolutely. But.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, you lose Johnny Davis and Brad Davison, and I get that I said a similar thing last year about them not having anything, and then they won the conference. So I guess you can take it with a grain of salt if you want, but just going off what I see here, I don't really know. I mean, sure. The Chucky Hepburn breakout. Enough people are predicting it that I can be convinced. But
you lost 34 points between Davidson and Davis. Are Hepburn and Wall going to average 34? And then who replaces their scoring? So
yeah.
Once again, team filled with a lot of question marks.
Sure.
Not shocking.
But I mean, last time we said that about Wisconsin, they won the conference. So.
Fair.
Yeah.
I don't really have a response for that.
All right. Let's move on to the basement of the Big Ten. Everyone's favorite place to be.
Yes. Let's go.
The floor is yours.
So I'd like to start with a Chris Collins quote. I guess when you lose one to Duke and one to North Carolina, you're developing well. He said that today about Pete Nance and Ryan Young transferring down to Tobacco Road. And then in the Almanac, he gave another great soundbite saying that he expected to have Nance and Young back, which I don't know. I think everyone here expected Nance to make the jump to the league after the season, especially after the first few games.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do return your top 5 scorers, top 5 of 7 scorers. You lose Nance. You have beyond question marks in the front court. Robbie Barron is a conventional wing that is 6'10" and kind of is shoehorned into playing that power forward slot. It's just the way the offense is run, but he kind of exclusively runs along the wings. They're not posting him up, trying to get him shots against smaller opponents. Maybe that happens this year because they need him to. Matthew Nicholson, we have yet to see anything. He averages 8.9 fouls per 40 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Legitimately. That's terrifying. He's going to foul out twice a game.
Mm-hmm.
Are we starting Luke Hunger, a 6'10"? He can space the floor. He's got the archetype of Kohler. He shot 42% in high school. But Like, I don't know. Can he put it on the deck? Can he pass the ball? Like, are we running the exact same pick and roll every offensive set with Boo Buie? And then Kris, like another soundbite, he gave him the almanac. He was like, Boo Buie has to be a top 5 player in the conference for this team to be good. And Chase Audige has to shoot 30, like in the mid 30s. So now you're leaning on 2 guys who finished top 3 in field goal attempts. Granted, I was a big believer in Chase last year. That doesn't change this year. I still like him as a player. He's a great two-way wing. He's a good two-way wing, right? He shot 37% at William & Mary from 3. Mm-hmm. All of those statistics have all dipped. He was hindered by a hip injury that I think he played through. He missed the first 7 games of the season, and I think he was just ready to come back. And there was no shot he was 100% all season.
Yeah,
and especially when you already have questionable shot selection between the pair, it's tough. It's one of those teams again, like the same thing that could hurt Penn State. You have a good lead guard in Bowie, right? And you have a good second guy in Chase. And you have solid wing depth that you can kind of lean on. Julian Roper, I feel like, is good upside. People have pegged him as like a minor breakout candidate.
Yeah.
I need to see him get to the rack more. I need to see him be more confident when he catches the ball in the corner. He's got some space, right? Heiser was hurt last year. He's your prototypical 6'6" wing. Maybe he can stretch the floor. We'll see. Ty Berry, you would like to think, right? Like now he's in his junior season here. So you would like to think that he can stretch the floor too. So I don't know. There's just so many holes in this roster, especially if you're I like Boo and I like Chase, and it's tough saying this is like a student reporter. You interact with them at press conferences. They're obviously I think this is where it does get lost at times. These are just 18 to 22-year-olds. People can say that all they want, but they go to class with me. They eat in the same dorm, they eat in the same dining halls, So it's tough because there's a human aspect to it. But at the same time, this has been a program devoid of winning since 2017, and that was one of 2 winning seasons in my lifetime for the school. So Boo, we're just gonna this offense is gonna run through Boo and Chase, and it's gonna go as far as these 2 guys can take them. Matthew Nicholson has to show something beyond. I don't think they can. I don't know how well he rolls. I don't know if they can just set him up at the dunker spot. Are you running a pick and roll with Barron now? Maybe that decision making is a little better. I don't think they can defend opposing front courts. They really couldn't do that last year anyway. So maybe it doesn't matter. This is a basement team that if Bowie and Chase combine to score, let's say 30 points a game, 32 points a game, they'll contend in some games. But again, this is it's a prove it year for Collins. We've said it before. We've said it several times before in recent years.
Yeah.
Derek Gragg, the AD, has very much made that abundantly clear. I do think probably just the way the roster is constructed, it's hard to see it, you don't Jalen Pickett is better than Boo Buie. It's where you could see Jalen Pickett single-handedly winning games. Can Boo do that? He's put up 27 in a game, right? He's really efficient. And I don't know if he's seen that efficiency consistently. So that's just kind of where Northwestern is for me. Basement team, low it's a low floor, it's a low ceiling. It's
low everything.
I don't know. Maybe they play Auburn and Cancun and we have a better indication of what this team is.
Yeah.
Streaky guards against streaky guards. What more do you want?
Right.
Chase Audige, Boo Buie versus Katie Johnson.
Right. I mean, when you lose if they had managed to actually bring back Pete Nance and Ryan Young, I think
this is it's a separate conversation for sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Collins was resistant to playing Nance and Young at the same time on the court. So I would have come in with the same expectations.
Right.
So yeah, that's Northwestern.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. We got 2 more teams to talk about. Minnesota. I mean, Jamison Battle's going to put up numbers.
He is.
He's going to score probably 20 points a game.
Yep.
Other than that, though,
That's it.
that's probably it. Yeah, they're gonna
No, that's
score.
it.
The whole team is gonna account for 20 points a game, and it's gonna be just Jamison Battle, just soloing every single opponent.
Oh, I mean, Dawson Garcia. I'd like to see that would be a field goal. That would be a feel good thing to happen.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
that would be good. If he can get me like 14-8, you know, if he can get 14-8, 13-8, 12-8, whatever it is, I'd be happy to see that. I would like to see that for him. But beyond him in battle, it's tough.
Right. I mean, you bring in a bunch of other transfers.
A lot of transfers, and you're just like hoping and praying that they pan out, but it's not really any names or schools that jump off the page. Not really a whole lot to be excited about. I mean, you're going to be spamming Jamison Battle and hoping that somebody else is kind of able to supplement that. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we'll see if if Talon Cooper from Morehead State, if he can be something, but he was averaging 10 points a game in the Ohio Valley Conference. So you're telling me he's going to be better than that in the Big Ten?
Yeah.
Probably not. We'll hold it out for Ben Johnson and just see how he recruits, because there's a lot of talent in Minnesota. A lot of guys in state that he could bring in.
There is.
You know? I mean, that was something that came out over, I think it was this offseason, wasn't it? Where everybody was talking about how
it was last offseason.
Was it last offseason? Where there were all these guys talking about how they would have gone to Minnesota.
It was Suggs and it was Hurt, and then it was Suggs, Wright. It was Matthew Hurt, and then it was Chet.
And McKinley Wright, I think, also.
McKinley Wright, yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's a lot of really, really talented players.
It's 2 lottery picks plus an ACC first team guy and obviously an NBA player, McKinley Wright.
But that's not right. And that's why I'm saying we'll hold out hope for Ben Johnson, because that wasn't during his tenure. Right. That was all on Richard Pitino.
In fairness, Chicago is a great recruiting bid, and we've seen what Chris Collins does with it, which is zilch.
I mean, he had Pete Nance. He had Miller Kopp.
Are they still wearing purple?
I mean, no, they're not.
Okay, so they're not.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I don't know if the recruiting wasn't really a problem. It was just after that.
If you're going to laud development and say, oh, we have 2 guys playing at 2 of the most historic basketball programs ever, but then our problem is going to be, oh, well, you're a decent recruiter. It's actually your development that's the problem.
Right. He's
just
bad at recruiting players that are already on the roster.
Jeez. Didn't need to hear that.
I'm just saying.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah. All right. Last team. Last place for Nebraska, right? Last place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait. Yes. I had to check for me.
I mean, they haven't done anything with Fred Hoiberg.
No.
And
they're probably stuck with him, because guess who they just bought out?
Scott Frost.
Yeah. So
it's true.
Hunker down.
I saw you ask the question on Twitter. Was it to Jim Root?
Yeah.
About, was it just who is more likely to still have their job at the end of the season?
Who gets canned first? So yeah, I guess who gets canned first? It was the inverse of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Hoiberg or Chris Collins, and his take was, I think, what we both probably thought, which is they just bought out Scott Frost. I don't think the boosters are going to get behind
buying out $1 million buyout. Even though he took the cut, in fairness.
Yeah. But this is a team that finished, they were tied for 13th in the conference last season, and that was with Bryce McGowan's and Alonzo Verge.
1-19 season income? Question mark?
They're going to be bad. They're going to be really, really bad. They're bringing in some transfers, but I mean, nobody, again, no transfers that really move the needle for you. You don't have a
Sam Griesel and Jawan Gary for 30 a night.
Yeah, not going to happen. I mean, at least with Bryce McGowan's, it was a bad team, but there was something to watch. I don't know if there's really going to be anything that you want to watch with this Nebraska team this year.
CJ Wilcher will go off for 20 against Northwestern. You can book that now.
Okay.
But yes, you don't want to. No one should watch that game, please. For whatever reason, you're flipping through the channels on the
Unless you're a real sicko.
Yeah, unless you're a real sicko like me, which you're not.
No one is a sicko like Alex.
Yeah. No, I mean, there are bigger sickos than I, but yeah. No, do not. Whatever you do, don't watch anything in the basement of the Big Ten. Just exclusively don't turn on the Big Ten Network from January to March.
I was trying to think of which conference, if you were to watch games, like which power conference, if you had to pick one, where watching the basement of their conference is like the most palatable. And I guess it's the Big 12, obviously.
Yeah.
Because like top to bottom. And also there's not that many teams in the Big 12. So like.
And there's not a Georgetown, you know?
Yeah.
Where, like, you can point to it.
Right. There's not a Georgia Tech.
You're not saying the Pac-12. You don't want to suffer through Louisville and Georgia Tech this year in the ACC. I guess a reasonable person could tune in and watch Jamison Battle, but I don't know if you want to watch Northwestern or Nebraska.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, it's the Big 12. I mean, the SEC, maybe. Vanderbilt, appointment viewing? Question mark?
I think the bottom of the SEC won't be
terrible,
as miserable as some of the other conferences.
Yeah, so it's the SEC and the Big 12.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So not palatable.
No, because like even Georgia, like Georgia's going to be pegged to finish bottom 4, and Georgia, like Mike White could win some games there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's either the Big 12 or the SEC. That's a good question, though.
Yeah. I mean, the Big 10, we've talked about it's a lot of mid. So, but what that translates to is a lot of competitive basketball.
Well, I don't know if it directly translates to a lot of competitive basketball. I think it translates.
It's going to be
teams beating each other. I don't know if it'll be good.
It's going to be competitive. It's not necessarily going to be good.
Okay.
It's going to be fun. Like, it's going to be fun going into these games against, like, it's going to
literally anybody could beat anybody outside of Nebraska.
Outside of those top 3 and those bottom 3, I really think it's wide open.
Yeah.
I do. Like, there's a world, like I said, where Rutgers finishes 4th or 5th.
I'd like to live in that world.
I would not, personally.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah.
Not a big Paul Mulcahy and Cliff Mourier guy?
You're just more of a sicko than I am. That's all it is.
All right.
You had some all-conference stuff prepared, right?
I did, yes.
Do you want to talk about that very quickly?
Yeah, sure. Okay. I'm in the minority with Big Ten voters. Hunter Dickinson for Player of the Year.
I agree.
Okay. So then the rest of my first team shook out with Trace Jackson Davis, which I felt was like obvious. ED because of the amount of touches he's going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Terrence Shannon Jr. and Kris Murray.
Okay.
Second team was Jalen Pickett for the numbers. Jamison Battle for the numbers.
For the numbers.
Cliff Mourier because. Yeah. Tyler Wall because he's going to be the go-to guy on a Wisconsin team that I think he can probably get to 16, and I think that gets you on the team. Especially because the Big Ten is not deep this year. What kept guys like Nance and Battle off those teams last year was that there were just so many starts. Like, you don't have that this year. You know? So, and then I had Xavier Johnson as my 5th guy because the winning team, like I went back and did some like look at the previous all the Big Ten teams, and like the winning team has had at least 2 guys. So like if I'm rolling with Indiana winning the conference, I'm gonna roll with the second guy on the all Big Ten team.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then like I don't know, freshman of the year, Jalen Hood-Schifino. I've talked about him enough to like.
Sure.
Yeah.
Not Sky Clark.
Would be electric. Would be here for it.
I might roll with Sky Clark, honestly.
Okay. That's fair. 2 Montverde guys. So
yeah.
You can never go wrong with a Montverde.
No, those guys are usually very successful.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of occurred to me talking about it that if you made 3 teams out of players that have left the conference, just like randomly assorted, they might be the 3 best teams in the conference.
They probably are.
Yeah. If you just took from the pool of players that have left and just randomly sorted them into 3 teams, I think those might be like they would finish top 3 in the conference.
No, seriously. Like, can you imagine putting like Sasha Stefanovic, like Pete Nance, throwing like Johnny Davis, and then like Travion Williams on the same team?
So much talent has just gone. But honestly, I like your takes on the all conference teams. I do.
I
think it was
appreciate
very
that.
fair.
AJ Hoggard is 11th, by the way, for all those Michigan State people.
Okay. Do you have a take on Coach of the Year? I mean, not that that's like the most electric award, but I think this is a conference where that does matter because
That's fair.
it's going to make a big difference.
Oh, geez. Man, I don't know because like Coach of the Year is not going to exclusively go to whoever wins the conference.
Right. It's going to be whichever one of those mid teams is able to finish 5th.
Then yeah, I'd either go. I was going to say Pickhill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either Pickhill or no, I'll just roll with him. I think Willard, like if he gets Maryland top 7.
I think there's an outside chance that Willard wins it for sure.
If Willard gets them top 7, he should win it, I think.
Based on the way that people are talking about
Maryland,
them, if they do anything, I think there's a good shot that Willard does it. And from what I've seen so far, people really like him. It's good for the culture.
He seems to be, absolutely. Recruiting well already, like you said.
Recruiting well already, keeping guys home in the DMV. So, all right, to close this out, let's just go through our respective rankings for the Big Ten.
All right.
Next season. I'll let you go first. We'll move through it in chunks. So give me your top 5.
Top 5, 1 Indiana, 2 Illinois, 3 Michigan, 4 Michigan State, 5 Ohio State.
All right. I have 1 Illinois, 2 Michigan, 3 Indiana, 4 Ohio State, 5 Iowa.
Okay. Next 5?
Yep, next 5.
6 Purdue, 7 Iowa, 8 Rutgers, 9 Wisconsin, 10 Maryland.
6 Purdue, 7 Michigan State, 8 Rutgers, 9 Maryland, 10 Penn State.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the last 4.
11 Penn State, 12 Northwestern, 13 Minnesota, and 14 Nebraska.
Yeah, I have Wisconsin and then Northwestern, Minnesota, Nebraska.
Yep.
So, I mean, it is like that is very reflective of what this conference is. It's like a pretty clear top 3, pretty clear bottom 3.
Yep.
And then the rest of it, I could be convinced for really anything.
Yeah.
It
could shake out however they want. And one of those top 3 teams dropping into the little mid bunch we have going on could totally happen.
Absolutely. Sweet. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our preview and predictions for the Big Ten Conference ahead of next season. Thank you all for listening and or watching. Make sure to like the episode, rate the episode, subscribe to the channel, or subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts if that's where you happen to be. I will throw our socials down at the bottom if you'd like to follow those. We are at Jimmer Range Pod on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram now. We're on Instagram.
Nice.
You can follow me at kheisercbb on Twitter. You can follow Alex at Cervantes P. Alex on Twitter. And Alex, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to plug. You have a Northwestern basketball preview coming pretty soon.
We do, yeah. Like the Daily Northwestern, we're gonna have like a 12 page preview, probably 8 to 12 page preview on all things men's basketball and women's basketball at Northwestern, just leading up to the season. So that'll be end of the month.
That's huge.
Yeah.
We will gradually be releasing our top 25 on TikTok pretty soon, and there will also be an article to go along with that.
And some season previews.
Some brief write-ups. We'll have season previews. Not really any rhyme or reason to them, just kind of more personal interest.
Yeah.
I did one on Maryland. I'm going to have one on Baylor, Houston, Gonzaga. So I'll do some of the top teams, and then after that, we'll see.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know. That's kind of all I got.
That's all I got.
So yeah, be on the lookout for more content. Check out our link tree, which is basically in the bio of all of our socials. You can join our chalkboard group chat if you want to talk about college basketball, NBA draft, recruiting, all that good stuff. So yeah, be on the lookout for more content in a lot of places. Basically anywhere you want to look, there you will find us. We will be there. For me, for Alex, that's going to do it. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.